I drove to Toledo, Iowa, possibly Tama, T-A-M-A, Iowa, to see Mayor Pete in the bush. We had to follow a gravel road for 1.5 miles, and then we ended up in a nature conservatory building that was quite nice. Lots of stuffed animal heads around, and Mayor Pete addressed a full house that was 100 to 150 people, hard to guess. Incidentally, for the very first time, I did not see any television cameras on the risers at the back. I have been to events like the Union Forum with Amy Klobuchar, where there were only 6 or 8 people in the audience, and there were all 4 major networks there filming the event. So it was somewhat odd to see Mayor Pete with a full house and no live TV camera. Whether the TV camera was live or not, I should say no TV camera. However, as I sat in the front row filming him ideally, I did see some people with big cameras shooting. I didn't have a chance to ask them where they were from. The other odd thing about the Mayor Pete event was there was a stanchion like you'd encounter in a line at the airport, possibly at a movie theater. And I have never been to a political event in Iowa where people were roped off from being near the candidate. Not sure why that was done, don't think it was necessary. After his speech was over, Mayor Pete came forward and mixed with people in the front row or two, separated by a stanchion.
Thank you so much, Dave, for your leadership, for your encouragement, for what you're doing for those who are in the communities that you share and your vision for the state. So honored to be with you. Thank you to Claire and all of our fantastic organizing team. One more time, if all of our organizers and our precinct leaders could just raise their hand, make sure you know where to go if you want to get more involved. Thank you so much. I'm biased, but I think we have the nicest organizers and the best volunteers in the state. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that, even though I'm biased. I'll be brief so that we can have as much of a conversation as possible, but I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce the values that are motivating this campaign and to share why it is that I'm asking you and fellow Iowans to caucus for me on February 3rd. Let me begin by saying I feel an affinity with Tama County. I come from St. Joseph County, Indiana, South Bend, of course, where we are proud that we have the only federally recognized land in trust in Indiana. When Indian country first came to our state, I'm proud that it happened on my watch, and it was right in the city limits of South Bend, Indiana. And I know that the issues that are at stake right now in the way that the United States government relates to tribal citizens who are also U.S. citizens, who have disproportionately given to our country in military and public service, is one of just many, many reasons why we need a new president. And don't we need a new president right now? In fact, my whole campaign revolves around the vision of what it's going to be like when we make that happen. So let me ask you to picture in as much detail as you can in your mind how it'll feel first time that the sun comes up over that lake and Donald Trump is no longer the president of the United States. Just let that image show you. Enjoy it. Now the reason I keep my mind focused on that day is partly, of course, that that's the day we've got to bring about, and it can't come soon enough. But also as a reminder that if you really stop and think about how it'll feel, that's not the day that our troubles end. It's the day that our work begins. Because on that day, our nation will be even more divided and polarized than it is now. But it will also be a nation facing the issues that brought us to this point and seeing them grow deeper and deeper each passing day. From a climate this close to the point of no return, to an economy where even when you've got a job, one job is increasingly not enough. Even when pay goes up, it's not happening as quickly as the cost of retirement and healthcare and education and housing. And a country where kids are getting active shooter drills now in school before they are old enough to learn how to read. That is what we are up against as a country. And that means so much will be required of the next president. Because we're going to need a president who can rise to meet those issues, rally the American people to fix those problems, and find a way to do it that actually leaves us more unified than before, and not divided. I see a way to do that. Matter of fact, I think that's what the presidency is for. I believe the presidency has a purpose. And my purpose in seeking the presidency is to make good on what it is for, not the glorification of the president, but the empowerment and the unification of the American people. That's why I'm asking for your vote. I'm running to be a president who can rally Americans around the values that we share and recognize that those values actually can carry us forward in a progressive direction, including the value of love of country. And I think a lot of us have been thinking about security, about patriotism, about service in these last few days and weeks. Now, when I talk about patriotism, I'm talking about something that goes a lot deeper than a president throwing himself a military parade. And something that is actually fundamentally incompatible with the president overthrowing military justice in order to pardon war crimes. What I'm talking about is a deep love of country that begins with our knowledge that the country's made of people. And you can't love a country if you hate half of the people in it. I'm talking about honoring service by honoring those who served. After they have served, by ensuring we have the best services available to our veterans, and that we recognize what veterans have to offer at every stage in life. And making sure we honor those who are on active duty right now, above all by making sure, since they are willing to go into harm's way, that our nation never asks them to do that unless there is no alternative. That is how we make good on our love of this country and our support for our troops. And protecting our country is something we can start right here at home, before we even get to international affairs and protecting this nation from stateless terrorism and the other threats that we face. We've got to protect ourselves from a lot of other threats that are coming down the line to affect us right here at home. I consider climate change to be one of those threats. As a matter of fact, I consider it to be the global security challenge of our time, and I will not only rally the American people, but seek to lead the world in doing something about it, because that is a matter of national security too. And if we mean business about protecting this country, that means protecting our own communities. That means acting to make sure that they can no longer take the Second Amendment and twist it into an excuse to do nothing at all about gun violence, when most Americans, including Republicans and including gun owners, know that we need background checks, red flag laws, and other measures to save lives from gun violence. That's a matter of security. And I will lead the country to do something about it. I'm thinking about the values that we share as a country that sometimes are now being used to try to divide us. That's how I feel about faith. Now, when I think about faith, I'm thinking about the call to serve those who are marginalized and oppressed and excluded. That's just where my faith leads me. I'm seeing this president threaten to cut off food stamps, and I'm thinking about, I was hungry and you fed me. Seeing what's going on at the border, and I'm thinking about, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I believe this is the time for us to step forward and insist that voters of faith have a choice, that God does not belong to a political party, and that we can uphold these values and live up to that basic American idea that our Constitution and our country belong to people of every religion and of no religion equally. I'm running based on American values like democracy. But we got to make sure that it's a real democracy, which doesn't feel like a lot of the times right now when you have voter suppression, including suppression of the black vote, suppression of the native vote, suppression of the student vote, changing the outcome of elections. This isn't a true democracy. When we have districts drawn by politicians picking out their voters instead of the other way around, when we have money playing the role that it does in politics, we are falling short. of what a democracy ought to be. And it's why if the only way to deal with Citizens United and get money out of politics is through constitutional reform, then I believe we should have the courage to do it, because that's what the amendment process was invented for. Let us secure our democracy before it's too late. Think about the way we value work in this country. Our regard for work is a core American value, but it's certainly not reflected in our tax code right now. Chances are you and I individually paid more in taxes than Amazon and Chevron did last year, because they paid zero on billions of dollars in profits. Matter of fact, they paid negative income taxes. I'd like to learn how that works. That shows that the values are upside down. Values like freedom need to be better honored in our country right now. But that means recognizing what it takes to make us free. Not just cutting every regulation and tax in sight, but really making sure we have a freedom to live a life of our choosing. And a lot of times that does mean getting government out of the way, for sure. Like keeping government out of the business of dictating to women what their reproductive health care choices ought to be. But other times, it means insisting that the public sector step up to solve a problem. That's how local government works. That's how mayors think. So we're responsible for paving and plowing the road to make sure that you have the freedom of being able to get from where you are to where you need to go. That's why we deliver clean, safe drinking water, because you're not free unless you can take that clean, safe drinking water for granted. That's why we step up locally to deliver schools, which deserve more resources, better support for the teaching profession, and a Secretary of Education in Washington who actually believes in public education. It's why we got to solve the problem of health care coverage in this country once and for all. That's what my vision for Medicare for all who want it means. We take a public plan, we can make it available for everyone who wants to get into it, but I respect your freedom to decide whether you want it. If you'd rather be on some other plan, that's fine by me. The important thing is not to make sure that the government is your health insurer. The important thing is to see to it that one way or the other, everyone is covered, and there is no such thing as an uninsured American. That is the game-changing investment that we have an opportunity to make. And it's one example of the issues that we have a chance to mobilize around to fix that can't wait any longer. We can't wait on our climate. It's going to keep doing what it's doing with or without us. We got to act now. We can't wait in a divided nation to act on racial injustice and make this a country where race has no bearing on your health or your wealth or your relationship with law enforcement. We can't wait to do something about the crisis of addiction and mental health in this country, and make it as okay to talk about a serious mental illness as it is to talk about cancer. Make it as routine to be able to get an emotional health checkup as it is to get a physical. If we do that, we can save thousands and thousands and thousands of lives every year. So let's not wait. I don't think this can wait 10 years. I don't think it can wait 4 years. Let's act now. And what I'm seeing everywhere I go, across Iowa and across the country, is how many Americans are ready for this. I see a powerful American majority to solve these problems, to make sure that Americans can get paid more and that it's more affordable to live in this country, whether you went to college or not. I'm seeing Democrats, I'm seeing independents, I'm meeting a lot of what I like to call future former Republicans, who are all on the same page when it comes to replacing what we have right now in Washington with something better. We get to turn the page. No matter what they do in the Senate in the next few weeks, no matter what's going on inside the Beltway, the decision is coming to us. And the decision, above all right now, is coming to you. Iowa has a thumb on the scale in deciding the future of the presidency and therefore the country. And I see how seriously the people of Iowa take that responsibility and that power. I've seen it for a year now. And now I'm looking in the eyes of the folks who 6 months ago were coming to see me and saying things like, "You look good, you're in my top 7, let's see you a few more times," and are now ready to make a decision. And I'm asking you to caucus for me because this is our chance, our only chance to defeat this president, and to do it so big that not only this White House, but the Trumpism that it represents go into the past and we build something new. So we can actually look back on 2020 and be proud of what we did together. That's why I'm running, that's why I'm asking for it. So, I promise to keep it short. I'm eager to have a conversation. Do we have mic runners to...
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this political content, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.